where your camera might go. I just want to make sure mine's on.
Yeah.
So high tech.
Just wondering how it's gonna go. I don't ever.
Okay, welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of October 21st, 2025. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Katie, please call the roll.
Baker?
Here.
Bilk? Here. Cox?
Here.
Frizone? Here. Hutchinson? Olson?
Here.
Pyatt? Here. Upholzer?
Here.
Dix. All right.
Okay, can I get a motion to excuse absent members?
Motion to excuse absent members? Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, any public comment on matters on the agenda? Hearing none, I need a motion for approval of the meeting, of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Approval of previous meeting minutes. We got the planning meeting minutes of September 16th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion? Need a second?
I'll support.
Any discussion? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. I don't believe we have any correspondence to acknowledge, so I think we'll pass on that. Public comment on matters not on the agenda. Mr. Mayor, please state your name and address, please.
Garrett Shumate, 31140 Island Drive. I just want to take the opportunity to sincerely welcome Rachel Witherspoon, our new city administrator, who is here at this forum for the first time. So please welcome her with open arms. Obviously, she'll be relevant to the DDA director report in addition to broader matters pertaining to city operations. So Rachel, we're really grateful to have you on board, and commission members, please welcome Rachel. Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think we have any old business, so let's jump into new business. I think the first item is the sign review. So do we want to kick off with that?
Yeah, so if you guys look in your packet, you'll see a review that Jane had put forward on October 2nd. And in the zoning ordinance standards, you'll see all the applicable section numbers and the areas underlined were deficiencies with the application. And to summarize those, at the beginning, you'll see the summary of findings. The proposal for the new freestanding signs at 13400 Middle Gibraltar Road do not fully meet the standards of the zoning ordinance. The freestanding sign that fronts Adam Drive exceeds the maximum 70 square foot by 2 square feet, and the height exceeds the maximum by 4 feet. The proposed freestanding sign that fronts Middle Gibraltar Road size was not provided, and the applicant must also provide the setback from the residential district across the street. If there's any further questions on that matter, please do not hesitate to ask.
Yeah, one comment I would make on the one that's on Middle Gibraltar, it's actually a reuse of the existing sign that was in compliance, so that shouldn't be an issue, I wouldn't think. As far as a setback, that's probably obviously something that needs to be addressed. It's quite a ways away from the residential, but it's still something that needs to be addressed. Anyone have any comments, thoughts, suggestions?
They should just go back and put it to the ordinance, right? Take 2 square feet off of it, shorten it, and, I mean, it's a new sign they're putting up, so keep it pretty simple and come back with all the dimensions, setback dimensions and everything, so it can be approved. Is my suggestion.
You want to make a motion to that effect?
Sure. I'd make a motion for us to reject it and have them update it to the zoning ordinances and come back with dimensions and layout that shows us their spec for all requirements.
Yeah, I'm Justin from the 30436 Bayview, also one of the partners in the Humbug Marina operation. I think you're going to see some other arguments later about this parking issue. We're trying to update our sign and make it a little larger for when people pass by, that they don't go past JP's or the Humbug Marina and go onto Lowell Street. Some of the other people that are going to come out and complain about, extra traffic based on this. So we're trying to push the sign a little bit larger so we direct traffic right into our facility and not into the neighborhood. That's kind of, right now it's kind of small. People drive by it all the time. That's kind of what we're after. To try to clean up the neighborhood, that's our main goal here. I think that's kind of what we're trying to go after. And also the other sign, we're taking that existing sign and moving it over to Humbug 2 and incorporating Sunseeker's sign, so they have some signage also. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Does that change anything as far as, because I tend to agree with them. I mean, it's the existing signs is easy to oversee, and it would alleviate people having to drive into a residential area because they missed that sign.
But they're only 2 square feet.
It's 2 square
over.
feet. I guess you can make the argument to the counterpoint, it's only 2 square feet, but it's
And
That's not the same one that's 14 foot tall, though, is it?
It is.
Because one of them exceeds the height by 4 feet.
4 feet high.
oh, is that what it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that
so-
the same sign?
Yes.
Yes, that's the one that's exceedingly high by 4 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what they're trying to achieve. And if they want to continue on with this size, then I would suggest they go to zoning board of appeals for that sign.
So I was actually informed by our attorney today that zoning board of appeals does not, in Gibraltar's charter, does not have the ability to grant any sort of variance. So in other words, they have to be compliant with the zoning ordinance. There's no way around it.
On a sign? We don't?
Yep.
We just did it a month ago.
They have in the past.
I sit on zoning board of appeals and we do.
I'm gonna have to talk to our attorney about that because he was just briefing me today that zoning board does not have the ability to do any variances. So, and I know that sounds crazy because it's the zoning board of appeals, that's its function, right? Yes, so I'm gonna circle back with him
That
about
was the
that.
whole reason of, well,
gonna say,
to
what's
ask
the
for a
point of
variance is
having
the whole reason of a zoning board of appeals, correct?
I completely agree, yes, that's why my mind was blown, and he said it's the only community he's seen like that, so.
All right, so we got a motion on the table, asking that it go back and be reworked to be in compliance. Need a second and/or any further discussion.
So it has to be 10 feet, correct? That's as max it can go.
Yes. And it's proposed at 14.
So I guess lowering it down and removing this section, getting these closer to the
Yeah,
ground.
that's what I was looking at. I
Bring
think
it.
there's things you can do.
But
Justin, I don't remember, when you're coming out of the marina, can you see above that sign right now?
No.
Okay.
That would also alleviate that issue.
Well, it's actually gonna be a little bit taller, the new one, if it gets,
There's space underneath though.
is that tucked any closer to the building versus the original sign?
It looks like it's narrow, it looks like it's narrower to me.
Yeah, so it'd be tucked in closer to that, to the corner of the building versus the, lower, wider sign.
Sorry, I'm late. Are you guys on Humbug Marina? Or no?
Signs.
Okay, yeah, I'm the manufacturer, so any questions I can
I guess the question that's kind of on the table is it's not in compliance with our current regulations, zoning regulations. What would it entail to bring it down from 14 feet down to 10 feet and cut it down by an extra 2 square feet? What would that cause to the design and the sign characteristics?
I'm sorry, what was the overall height?
Yeah, height restriction is 10 feet, and you're exceeding the overall square footage by 2 square feet, which isn't a lot. So it would, to me, it wouldn't take it that much to restrict it down just slightly.
Right.
It's probably more of a height issue.
Simply lowering the 4 feet, reduce the square footage by enough to.
No, the sign would be different, yeah, so we'd have to make this box just slightly smaller. And bring down the height. So
Right.
Two separate issues, right?
Yeah.
Have you touched on Humbug 2?
I think the Humbug 2, the dimensions weren't specified in what was provided to us. I know that you're reusing the existing box, which I believe is compliant, so if you could just put the dimensions on there, that would be helpful for the planners. And then also, what's the setback?
21 feet.
Okay,
That was on the drawing.
is that on there? Is that all you needed on that, or?
Yeah, I was not able to discern that setback figure on there.
Oh, yeah, it is on there.
Just drawing or not?
It's, yeah.
But I'll send a new one with the dimensions and just maybe make that over.
Yeah, it might have just been easily missed.
Okay.
Hi, Ron Thomas, one of the owners of Humbug also. Can we just simply lower the sign by 4 feet so it meets the requirement and then agree to reduce its size by 2 square foot and get a conditional approval for it and then just resubmit those plans before we build? Would that satisfy the board? That way it's within the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, yeah, we agree to that also then.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I guess in that case, let's do a conditional approval if someone wants to make a motion based on reducing the height by 4 feet and the
And meeting at the.
square footage by 2 feet.
I'll do a motion to do that.
So you rescind your first motion?
Rescind my
Okay.
first motion and
And then,
do a conditional that they reduce the height by 4 feet and reduce by 2 square feet and submit dimensions drawings before they build it.
And the same with the other sign as well. I think it's just submit it with the drawings with the sizes on it, which again gets compliant with the existing
Set-
sign that's there.
Setback dimensions.
And the
too.
setback dimensions highlighted.
That works.
It's got a motion, need a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? By the way, I'm not voting on that one. I'm a member of the board on Sunseekers, so based on the fact that one of the signs is with Sunseekers, I'm abstaining from my vote for that, so.
okay, thank you.
Would any of us happen to know how we ended up getting that rule, where the sign max height is 10 foot? I know we keep talking about eventually going through all these old rules, zoning and ordinance to, maybe update a few things, but there,
I've been on this board a long time, and that predates me being on here, so.
yeah. Just like to know why we have some of the rules we have, that's
Right.
all. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to item B, Captain Jim's and Humbug's Marina shared parking. Mr. Bear, did you want to make some comments on that first, or do you want to have the?
Yeah, so just on that first page of the memo that Jane had prepared dated October 16th, you kind of have a little bit of a history of Captain Jim's parking. So in 2018, they were approved to have 20 spaces when the zoning ordinance actually required 42 to be there. So that's a deficiency of 22 right there. Also, part of that history is in 2022, the city approved a sign application to direct Captain Jim's overflow parking to the Gibraltar Boatyard, and that area is no longer available to Captain Jim's customers.
So can I ask a question on that? So when they're approved with the 20 spaces, were they approved with the caveat they would have additional parking down the street?
To my
meet the zoning requirements?
To my knowledge, in 2018, that was not the case. That was something that was done a few years after, with the overflow signage.
Okay.
And I'd have to think back in my memory and the timing. Captain Jim's has evolved a lot over time from what it started out as to what it is now. I mean, it's not the same business that it was.
No, but every time that they came in, a new business come in to the planning commission to say, hey, we're starting a new business, we had to approve something. So was there a variance officially acknowledged or created to allow them to have a high-capacity facility with low parking?
To my knowledge, a variance was never sought after.
Okay.
Was there ever an occupancy change that we know about either? No, occupancy allowance change? Say if it's on 20 spots on occupancy, or on size of the building, is that an occupancy or no?
Yeah, basically, based on square footage and occupancy, it determines how many parking spaces you're supposed to have.
Yeah, it's one space for each 100 square feet. So that was the size of the building that dictated that 42.
How was occupancy determined?
It's based on the square footage of the building.
Regardless of whether there's adequate parking or not?
So you derive the parking requirement based on the square footage of the building. And according to this memo, we had a building that was 4,100 square feet.
No, that part I understand, but it has an occupancy of 99 people. My question is how do we get an occupancy of 99 when there's parking for 20?
So the occupancy is different than the parking requirements. In some instances, you might say it's based on occupancy, but for what we have in the zoning ordinance, the parking requirement for that use is one space per 100 square foot. And occupancy doesn't paint into that picture.
And then, so in the summer, when they rope off an outside patio area and they build a deck and people come, does that square footage get it calculated back into the footprint of the occupancy for parking? Because now you just added 200 square feet of dining space. That doesn't calculate back into our
Nope,
calculation?
it's based on the building square footage.
Only the building.
Yes, for what we have in the zoning ordinance currently, yes. And then to move on, the second page, Jane provided a breakdown from the 2019 approval of JP's Waterfront Grill at Humbug Marina, which showed the required parking and the total available parking, identifying that there was extra parking at the site, and you can see all the numbers in that table. That ties into the next page where you see the proposed shared parking section of the ordinance. And Jane went together and threw a table together that shows the required parking for both uses and as well as the existing spaces at both sites, identifying the discrepancy between what's existing and what's required, highlighting that they're combined together. You could allocate those required spaces. And when you get down to the action, to summarize, Captain Jim's was approved with the deficient parking in 2018 and identified the memo, that table we were just looking at, there is available parking at Humbug Marina. However, on the contrary to the action section identified in the memo, the city is not party to any arrangement between property owners regarding the provision of parking.
I mean, I got one more question to ask, and I don't know if anybody can answer it, maybe you, Garrett. What is Gibraltar's enforcement policy today towards Captain Jim's? Is it okay to run a business with out of ordinance, and we're not gonna do any like request a variance for temporary variance for parking, or are they gonna allow them to run forever with 20 spaces and feel that it's legit?
It's a really important question. I don't know, planner, if you have any perspective on that from a planning perspective on ordinance language requirements relative to the 2018 approval that was approved with deficient parking capacity.
You know, in the grand scheme of things, this is almost an example of why we should go through those variances when they occur. Can't speak to what had happened at that time. Now, if, for example, let's say Captain Jim's did any renovations that would trigger a site plan, at that time, they'd basically have to come back to this commission, and they'd have to ask for that again. And at that time, you'd obviously probably want to hold them to a variance. But with what's on the table today, nothing to that effect would trigger the necessity for that variance.
So they can run as is, according to the city of Gibraltar, outside the zoning ordinances with no issues because it was approved back in 18.
Yes.
So what do you see, like, other communities doing when they're repurposing a building that has an occupancy that's higher than the available parking? What does the trend do? What do you see the trend line doing?
You're talking about the occupancy related to fire code, correct? Is that where that 99
Yeah,
came
well,
from?
So, I mean, a lot of buildings are repurposed, and they may or may not have sufficient parking. I mean, at one point in time, whatever they were built for years ago, it wasn't an issue at that time. So now these buildings are being repurposed for other uses, which may include, let's say, entertainment, which requires a high volume of parking. So what are you seeing as a trend of what other communities are doing for buildings or situations of this nature?
Well, for situations of this nature, I mean, you can't build more parking when there's not the space there, right? So that's always a challenge. And when you do remodel that building, that usually triggers a site plan review, right? And part of that site plan review, you'll come to this question again, say, hey, we have this deficient parking. And then that's when it's a good idea to make an application to the zone of boarding appeals, so they can at least, there's some record that approval of that deficiency, and you list the reasons being. One of those reasons might be, not enough space on site, right? That's a reason to approve a variance in some instances. So I know that might not be a very fluid answer that could get to a solution for us right now, but that's usually the process that would be followed.
I mean, is this typically like, do you see situations like this typically moving forward where they don't have enough parking, but they were never originally built for what they're being used for, but it's a good situation for the community? So do you see other communities doing?
I would say this is a very unique situation, and I can't think of one off the top of my head I've dealt with where there's been an approval for a deficiency that doesn't have a reasoning outlined. So to that, I don't know if I have a great answer for you.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Assuming that the additional parking gets approved, does that trigger anything? Does it change anything with occupancy? Does the occupancy stay at 99 regardless if there's 20 parking spots or 300 parking spots?
The occupancy you're referring to, I believe that's the fire code occupancy, correct?
And I think that's an important delineation, right? Because that was a question that came up in the commission, which was, to your point, Bill, I hear you pushing on, well, the occupancy says 99, yet the ordinance language, separate from fire occupancy considerations, which is persons, in 99 in this case, if I understand correctly, separate from that, our ordinance language states for every 100 square feet, you need a parking spot. So the parking spot versus the occupancy are two independent variables determined by two independent guardrails. So they do not interrelate, if I understand correctly.
Usually never. In some instances, you might have a zoning ordinance parking regulation that specifies must be half the occupancy according to the fire chief. Or in some instances, on a more intense use, it might be one per occupancy. So in some instances, that is interconnected, but for what we have right now, they are two separate issues.
And just, obviously, I'm not a voting member of the commission sitting in front of me, but just for context, nor am I an expert in any of this, but city planner, and obviously thank you for being here on behalf of Jane, I think has done a lot of research to compile the information you have in your packet as a follow-up to the last discussion. I think the headlines that I take away based on discussions with the city planner as well as legal counsel is kind of the headlines you summarized, right? In 2018, there was a site plan approved with deficient parking allocation relative to requirements. So that's in your packet. Now, this commission, from what I understand, is not being tasked with taking any action this evening.
Correct.
The reality is our ordinance language is clear, based on my discussions with city planner and legal counsel, that a parking arrangement between two or individuals of private business entities is a private business matter. So that is not something that the city, nor you as commission members, would be signatories or authorizers of, according to our ordinance. And that's the nuance here that I think is important, right? So there's a problem, we have a deficient parking allocation for a business, and that was approved in 2018 with deficiency. And today you have the previous meeting of business approaching commission saying, we want to solve this problem of parking. And so after the exhaustive research, I think the takeaway from what I understand from the planner and the legal counsel is the commission doesn't authorize that. That's an ordinance matter that gives the right of a private business owner to establish a shared parking arrangement. And obviously Jane's done all the research, pulling the 2019 data to show you current specs and measurement considerations around their proposal, but that's their proposal and not something that the commission members would be taking action on, just to be clear.
What's the attorney's stance then on the 44-169-15, where it says property should be adjoining to take up the parking, additional parking? Do they consider that adjoining?
I don't want to be a legal counsel
I'm
expert, but
sure.
I think if I recall correctly, the city planner and the legal counsel looked at the language and context of that, and I believe the discussion, if I heard correctly, was something around the order of 500 feet or some sort of defined distance in addition to adjoining language. That's all a part of that language, so I don't have the legal answer for you, but
We
that's.
request their attorneys to give us a written letter of what their interpretation of that ordinance is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. This commission could authorize any action according to, and I'm glad to make sure that you get that information via council.
Because that's a big piece to understand.
Yep.
Is it considered adjoining? Is it not required? And another question I have is, do all parking spaces have to be within 300 to 500 feet of that building? Within our zoning ordinance, that's within our ordinance, so, or that's nothing for us to worry about?
We can ask the attorney to clarify that. And I don't know, planner, if you have any perspective on that matter.
Yeah, there's some reference to this 300 and 500 in section 44-1663. So the 300 comes in, you have to provide your parking spaces within 300 feet of the building. That's just for a general parking lot, okay? That's not necessarily for a shared parking lot. And it goes on to say, I guess there's a provision that also allows for 500, but again, that provision was actually not referring to the collective or shared parking. So it is actually silent, I believe. Again, I would defer to the attorney, but it does appear silent on that distance for shared or collective parking. So those, that 300 and 500 example are actually for on-site.
Yeah, we had questions a month ago because of the word adjoining was problematic with the canal there. But I also have some, I guess I'm not quite clear what Jared had spoke of, but some of these ordinance requirements that were given to us, section 44, 166, 165, 167, are all related into increased floor space. It's not related to what we're talking about, and I'm not an attorney, but every one of those paragraphs talk about increased floor space. That would be the reason for, shared parking. Now, having said that, I am all for having a thriving downtown area. I don't have any issues with the lounge there at all. And to be honest, if there's adequate parking on both sides, in my opinion, I don't have a problem with that. My problems is the same as it was a month ago. Will the little sidewalk that gets installed create any liability for the city because it's on city property? And then increase of occupancy disturbs me a little bit because I already have neighbors that say, well, you know what? The folks are parking all over the place. They're parking in a community center. They're parking in front of residents. I don't know if the additional parking will help resolve that. I think it would, as long as the city does what it's supposed to do as far as verifying, or at least checking on the place to say, there's 99 people inside and there's 15, 20, 30 people outside, and cars are parking all up and down the streets. That's where the problem is. We don't kind of like monitor our own ordinances. I mean, I can't speak for these guys. Me personally, I'd like to see a nice little thriving little downtown area. This city needs to do whatever it can to attract people, and I know there's a lot of people in Gibraltar that don't like that. But I do think we need some business growth here in our community to help with our future infrastructure, You know, tax dollars, we need it. But
So currently, the current owners can run as is. Now, this came up because we got potential buyers. So when a new buyer comes, do they inherit the inadequate parking? Or do they need to meet the ordinance at time of sale is when it would get changed?
Great practical question. I don't have the answer, city planner. I don't know if you do,
Is
I
that what
defer to
kicks
you
off?
or
'Cause
legal counsel on
That's kind of
that.
what started this whole discussion originally. A potential buyer was gonna buy it and wanted to had parking. But
If they get a shared agreement on parking, then that meets,
they have to,
and that's when it can
but
be
they would
separate
have
business
to
owners
officially,
have an agreement.
and planning would have to approve it before time of
If
sale.
I'm understanding what you said correctly, I'm just processing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is gonna be word for word what you were saying, but we don't take any action, because as long as the business owners agree that they're gonna share parking, that's, all we would do is approve a sign.
I think the city, exactly. So my understanding again is that the city planner and legal counsel worked hard to address all the nuances of the questions that you had last time to come back with a position, right, for you as commission members. That position is, there was a deficiency based on approval in 2018, which leaves a gap of how many spaces, city planner?
I'm sorry, what was
How many spaces deficient?
22?
So 22 space deficient, and they've been operating as such. Obviously, there was an overflow parking in your memo that has since been revoked, right? So here we are with the situation where the legal and city planner guidance is this is not a commission matter to approve the parking agreement. According to our legal counsel and city planner, our ordinance language gives the right of a private business owner, owners, to establish a shared parking agreement. In this case, I agree with all of the backdrop and nuances and motivating factors of this discussion, right? In addition to all the practical elements, right, of all the things we heard from the community around increased traffic flow, city liability, and risk. But today, based on the legal counsel and planner guidance, the commission is not tasked with taking action because our ordinance language states that if two private businesses, in this case adjoining or under the same umbrella of geographic coverage, right, want to establish a shared parking agreement, they have the right to do that. And we as a city are not signatories on that, nor are we approvers on that. Now, obviously, we would want record of that if they did choose to go down that pathway for the sake of our records. Obviously, in that case, that parking agreement would then, in theory, depending on that agreement they would establish, address the ordinance deficiency based on the deficiency in the approval of 2018. But in summary, my takeaway from legal counsel and planner was this is not a matter that commission takes action on. This is a matter of ordinance language and private business rights that allow them the pathway to establish a parking agreement. And then to the other points brought up around 300 feet or 500 feet, what I'm hearing is based on our planner's guidances. Can you recap what the takeaway is there for the commission members? Is there a feet reference requirement?
Though that is not in relation to the shared parking.
So that's for a separate matter. Separate matter is the geographic feet distance, right, is what I'm hearing from you. Our ordinance is silent on the shared parking component.
Yes, for the shared parking portion, yes.
So I'm not an expert in this at all, but that's the information that I got. And Commissioner Baker, to your point, right, because I think I heard you around the city enforcement, right? I just want to calibrate us to the fact that our police department has done a significant amount of enforcement. Our ordinance officers done a significant amount of enforcement, including in this matter. And if you recall the history, there was a lot of parking over a curb and a grassway that was owned by the city, which was since intervened on by our department. So I just want to make sure we level set that the city has intervened on this. It's
I'm
coming
not
up.
saying they didn't do anything,
Yeah.
it's just, but even I've driven by and I've seen cars parked everywhere.
And I agree, those are all the practical, and look, I live in this community and I see it, and I think those are all the practical considerations. Nobody wants to impede residential, nobody wants to create a bunch of traffic overflow, right, and crowded nature of community dynamic, especially in that area. Nobody wants to hinder our infrastructure, nobody wants to create liability, so I agree on all of those fronts, and I think these are all the practical considerations, but I just want to calibrate the folks that the literal legal guidance we're getting today for the commission is that.
So the city would allow a new buyer to buy it with the substandard zoning ordinance parking, as is. They'll allow it to transfer hands, go into that, and then that new buyer can do whatever he wants as long as he has agreement with somebody else. We would allow that to move forward.
I don't have any expertise in that, city planner, I don't know if you do, and if not, we
That's
can
what we
consult
need to
counsel, yeah,
understand.
okay,
I guess I may,
yeah,
otherwise,
absolutely.
there's no ordinance, there's no enforcement, why are we even talking about it? right? Today, I
Well,
mean,
I don't know what we would enforce based on two businesses making an agreement on shared parking. If the transaction of a sale happened there and a new owner's under there, I don't know that the city has any influence on how they achieve the new parking or if
But
it's
it'd be- have to-
required or.
would it have to be part of the sale
I
agreement?
disagree 100%. If Jane didn't do the calculation and said, you know what, Humbug Marina does not have enough adequate parking, then this body would be able to say, no, you can't do that. To have if I understood you correctly, the attorney saying that this body doesn't have any authority to modify or change anything with this language doesn't make sense to me, because that would apply to everything in Muni Code.
No, I think
I
just to
don't think this
clarify.
body has a say in the sale or transaction of a sale of a business.
No, yeah, and
That's where I'm
Commissioner
coming
Baker, I want to be,
Discussing sales.
I want to be crystal
we
clear.
are.
And I want to be very clear.
it'd be
This
the
body, based on our legal counsel and our city planner, does not have approval or signatory responsibility for a shared parking agreement to be established. Based on ordinance, that is a right of a private business, just to be clear. So that's different than what you, so like, for example, if two businesses in town wanted to establish a shared parking agreement, our ordinance language gives them a pathway for which commission members don't approve that, nor are they signatories on the agreement. That's what the guidance was from our council and our city planner. I just want to be, clarify that component. So all the other concerns are practical. I'm saying if two businesses want to establish a shared parking agreement based on the guidance, that's not something the city authorizes, approves, and/or signs. That's the guidance we got, just to be clear.
So if there's a shared parking agreement and it fixes the deficiency, there's no other action, correct?
Well, the understanding would be that if the shared
No,
parking.
we shouldn't even be talking about it.
If the shared parking agreement,
Correct.
it would, if the shared parking agreement was established between these private business individuals, then if the shared parking agreement enabled up to 22 spaces, the deficiency, then it would bring it out of deficient from an ordinance language perspective. That's my understanding, correct?
And we would approve a sign if they want to have a sign saying park over there, whatever.
And Chair, obviously, member of public has a comment. I don't know if you want to entertain public comment now or if you want to wait.
Yeah, sure. Mike Crooks, 29406 Lowell. According to the 2002 year master plan, 100% that adjoined parkings have to touch. This rule of 3-500, you guys are dreaming that stuff up. That is not what it says. So I have properties within 450 foot. So you're telling me if I buy something, you guys are gonna open Pandora's box and we're gonna have parking lots all over town. That is not what it says. So I think you're legal, you better look into the legal a little farther. It has to be an adjoining piece of property, that's what it states, right there. If the properties physically touch, then they could go to the zoning board at the time of inception, not 5 years later, and get approval. But that's not what you have here. Okay, so at the end of the day, these guys with, 200 cars parked all over town, so you're gonna open, so every guy that has a business around there, you're gonna say, oh, hey, this guy can have a parking lot over here, and I'm within 499 feet, I'm gonna put a parking lot over there. So this is not a good thing. You guys need to nip this in the bud right now, because what you're doing is not, I don't know who give you guys the legal, because I did my research on it, and that's not what your ordinance says. Your ordinance says that the parcels have to be adjoining, and those parcels do not adjoin. And that's so. And that the planning commission does not have any approval. So I can go and say, hey, Jim, I want to make a deal with you. We're going to park all the cars at your house. No, that needs approval from the city. Okay, that's just not the way it works. So I know what you guys are, I get what you're trying to appease and just like over there, they don't have enough parking for what they currently have. And now we're going to say, okay, let's put some more parking on there. And we all know that, the deal with Rob and what he did, they slid that in and it happened. But now you have a perfect time to make this right, and you can't just say, oh, we're gonna, let them have 200 parking spots over here, because that's not what your ordinance reads. the zoning ordinance reads the properties have to touch. So the 300 to 500 foot rule is within an existing building. If I have a building, my parking is supposed to be within 300 to 500 feet of the building. Do you agree? You're the city planner. You were going down that road, but these guys convinced you of difference. So that's my take on it. So I think you guys need to step back a little bit, get your ducks in a row, because what you're doing here is not right. And it's gonna cost the city with some lawsuits and things down the road. Because then you're gonna have every single business in town wanting to have parking lots all around. That was not the intent of the master plan in 2002.
I just want to take a moment and bring us back to the fact that we can't reverse the clock. We can't change what happened in 2018, as much as that might be nice, right? But as it stands, their site plan was approved with a deficiency. We don't have a new site plan in front of us. There was nothing that triggered a new site plan, so that's not what we're talking about at the moment. What we're talking about is a shared parking agreement, and as the mayor stated, our legal counsel got together with our planner this afternoon and informed us that the city has no part in a shared parking agreement between two different entities. So I just want to bring that all back into context.
And there's no chance to change anything at point of sale. So the sale between two private entities, they do it their own, we will allow the sale and a business to be purchased with, like we did by accident before, to allow that to happen, so then they can go create a joint parking agreement.
So-
Or would that be required as point of sale?
A private sale, the city has no part in. If the sale,
Business though, there's,
but we don't approve or deny a business sale, right? So if it was an action that triggered a new site plan, then we could come back and address this deficiency.
So what
If
are
that
we
makes
talking about?
sense.
Why are we talking about this then?
yeah, we.
So,
No new site plan coming before us,
Right.
and if we have no authority over a private agreement, why are we talking about this?
so as Mayor said, the action that was listed in the packet, that's actually not the action that is before us tonight, and I believe the planner also stated this in the beginning. Tonight, all we're doing is discussing how this isn't the responsibility of the planning commission after all, so it's off your plates, don't worry about it. And what we're here to do tonight is to receive and file the shared parking agreement.
Yeah, my one statement, just a follow-up to Mr. Crooks's statement. I think he left a little bit of the context out why he's upset about what's going on in the research is he's trying to purchase the property outside of a previous agreement we had to purchase this property. And and that's just from my understanding, you know. So I just wanted to make that statement, you know. It's not, I'm not here to throw dirt in anybody's face, but that's just kind of where it kind of lands.
No, that's not true.
Well, guys, I think, end of the day, guys, it's really not it's not a matter before this commission, so it's really not.
Listen, the word in town is that if you guys don't give these guys approval, that they're gonna sue you, okay? That's the word in town, okay? So at the end of the day, I told these guys, Jay, I told them, if you're gonna lose financial revenue, that I would buy it and donate it to the city. That's exactly what I said, for a hunt and fishing club for the kids, okay? So at the end of the day, what you guys are doing is not right. The group of residents that is together is gonna bring a lawsuit on the city because you can't do it. You are going totally against the zoning. You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna park your cars at my house. That's ridiculous. You can't have a business make a private deal and park cars all around town, okay? So you guys,
We understand like your concerns, obviously. but
so
if this
this
has
guy
nothing to
saying,
do-
I wanna buy
this
the
has nothing
thing,
to do with
I
this
could
board right now,
care two
currently.
less about
Mike,
that.
I understand.
You know,
But if this
and
currently,
the tax
we're not
revenue-
voting on anything right now.
The
We're
tax
receiving and
revenue
filing.
is $2,000 to the city with that piece of property. That is it. I pay over $40,000 in property tax to the city. That's $2,000. all the police, all the fire, all the rescue for $2,000. Does that make a good business sense to this city to bring that in? Do we make money off the $2,000 and that Captain Jim's over there? No, absolutely not. I'm a business guy. That is not a good business. We are not. And all these other, everybody's referencing Trenton and Wyandotte, they have an off-site parking in their zoning. We do not. We do not have an off-site parking. So you guys can let them do whatever you want, but that is not legal. So that's all I got to say.
Excuse me, Mr., I didn't catch your name again?
Crooks, Mike,
What's that? What are we approving here tonight?
that's what
You're
I'm saying.
saying that it's fine for them to
Our
let them
our
park?
city attorney is, we're doing
What's
nothing.
that?
We're currently doing nothing tonight.
I understand that, but you're leading, the mayor is saying that that's no problem. You guys can make a side deal, park cars all over the place.
That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying.
That is a significant extrapolation of my words. I am right here as a non-voting
I
member,
know that.
sharing
I know.
legal counsel and city planner expertise. They are the experts in this matter.
Yeah.
You heard our city planner recap all of the ordinance data or language, all the numerics on it, all the guidances that we're delivering to commission is that we are not in a position to take action tonight. We're not endorsing it. We're not
I-
advocating for it.
Well, you are. You're saying you're gonna let them present an
We're
agreement to
being
you.
literal to the ordinance language we have in the city, which is stating that they have a right as business owners to establish a shared parking agreement. And I will take all the follow-up to council, as I've heard from these parties, but
I think you should do that.
yeah,
because
and that's our
that-
follow-up. I'm just want to be clear, we're not taking any action this evening. The
Yeah,
commission's not
there's
taking
nothing
action.
before this
They're
board to
not
take action on it.
endorsing, they're not authorizing, they're not
At the
supporting.
end of the day, this, I know that, but this statement of him saying, I wanna buy that piece of property, I could care two less about that piece of property.
And this
okay?
commission should
It
not
has
even
nothing
be.
to do with that.
That has nothing to do with this matter.
Exactly.
This is a ordinance language and a city planner and legal counsel giving
But it's
commission.
not just this one. It's the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy. And that's the problem. You have a chance to nip this in the bud right now and go with what the city ordinance says. I'm not trying to put them out of business. They got 20-some parking spots, and they can have 100 people there. But when you go by there and there's 300 people in there, and there's 150 cars parked all around town, that is not, none of that is proper.
Nobody wants
Okay.
any of that in the
So-
city. I just want to be clear.
So all I'm telling you is, once you let one, you go against your own ordinance in our master plan, and then you open it up, now you're gonna open it up to every single business in town.
So,
And that's not a good deal.
and so, a couple things that are important there, right? You mentioned like, this would, the precedent this could set, right? Is it
That's
like, to your
right,
point, right?
exactly.
So I think there's gonna be ordinance language that will guide on, this is not a residential manner, right? A commercial manner, other considerations here I think are important. The second thing that I think is important is, today, the follow-up from last meeting was to give the commission guidance that you don't have authority here. You're not endorsing, you're not supporting, you're not doing anything. You're just receiving this information. So that's all we're doing tonight. Now, to your point, follow-up that I heard was we need to consult council on what enforcement capability we have with a deficient ordinance state today, right? And now that's based on precedent, meaning
That's right.
our city approved in 2018 deficiency, right? So we have to navigate.
But if this property changes hands, like it's planning on doing, they have to go reapply and get the proper
And
parking.
these are all the things that the city planner,
Exactly.
the building department, the city attorney, all we're doing is removing any sort of subjective factors and saying objectively, according to the information we have, the legal counsel, the city planner, the ordinance language that we all have to live by, this is where we're at. I just want to be very clear. This
Wow.
isn't a pathway
But I
endorsement.
think common sense says, like, you know, that different, like, I have property in town, and I can just say, you know, I'm gonna park cars there. I'm just gonna park cars there. What are my neighbors gonna say? Come on.
And maybe
You
city
can't-
planner, can you comment just if you
Yeah.
can, right, to his question, right? So like, maybe for the ordinance language today, right, we're talking about two business entities that want to establish an agreement on sharing parking. So maybe you can comment on that relative to like across the entire city of Gibraltar, the implications, or is this a zoning,
That
ordinance
was a
consideration?
comment that was derived from legal counsel,
Yeah,
not the planner, just to
Yeah.
clarify.
okay, perfect. No, I'm saying, but precedent-wise, meaning residential or other elements of our community, how would this matter translate to the broader districts in our city? And we can take it as a follow-up, you don't have the answer, I'm just asking from a zoning ordinance perspective.
Could you re-ask the question? I'm not sure if I follow.
So what he's referring to is if, for example, if we now have guidance that the commission can't take any action or authorize as a signatory a shared parking agreement between two entities. His concern he's raising, which we can follow up with council if you don't have the answer, is that supplying right now to the businesses at hand, right? Two businesses and locations described in your packet, right? How does that potentially apply to all the other businesses, the geographic separation between them, or the residential community that is not a
I
business
believe
issue?
that would be a question for legal counsel.
Okay, perfect. So we'll take that, we'll take this file for council.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, you're saying you're part of Sunseekers, so, Sunseekers decides they're gonna make a deal with the church, and we're just gonna park all the cars over there. That's legit? No.
And this is the file we'll take for council, because Commissioner Bilk had this.
People think that, you know, I don't wanna put the guy out of business, but what happened is this thing has slowly escalated to a point where a ruling needs to be made in the next, whatever, 3 months or whatever it takes, 6 months, to set precedent for the rest of the city. Because that whole downtown has no parking, okay? So, and these guys have a big restaurant over there, they got parking over there, but even their current restaurant that they have doesn't have sufficient parking according to the ordinance that's there now. Okay? So, and I think most people are good with that. But to take a piece of property that already has not enough parking, and then to say, oh, we're gonna add another piece on there, and oh, by the way, we're gonna let people walk on the public road, that's the issue. It's not just what these guys are doing, it's what the next guy's gonna do, the bank building, this building, that building, and then you're gonna have parking all over town. So, that is not how the ordinance was wrote. The ordinance was wrote for shared parking to be adjoining.
And so what I'm gonna do, I wanna make sure we have all the follow-ups clear. One follow-up for our council is applicability to broader businesses and/or areas of the city. Commissioner Bilk, your inquiry was around our ability to legally intervene on a deficient ordinance situation.
Well, I just want to know if Gibraltar says we're okay with that. We approved it, they can park anywhere they want in Gibraltar today. But then at time of sale, you would think it'd be a time to correct it. But you're saying if they don't have a site plan, they can sell it to somebody who says, I'm gonna park over here, to Mike's point, they can have a parking lot anywhere they want and move on, and the Gibraltar will accept that.
I'll get clarity for the
Gotta be a
commission on that
point of
matter too.
correction or ability to correct and make it right.
I'll take that as a follow-up for, I think it's a building department matter as well, so I'll pull in those parties to
But
just
it may not be
transfer.
planning, but is it council, is it ordinance team, is
What I heard, what
who
I
handles
understood
it?
Rachel to say was that that wouldn't be captured until they bring a site plan
Yeah.
to us, and that's
That's what I
when we
mean.
would make a correction.
That's what I mean, so they could sell it if they're in a site plan, then they could park down the street
They're
anywhere
the
they
same
want.
until they need
Yeah.
to make a major change, which would,
Yeah, but that's no different than
Require a
if
site
somebody
plan.
buys an apartment, they have to have a city cert, and the inspector has to come in and check it. As soon as that sale happens, that triggers the mechanism.
It should.
Put it,
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna pull this to a close, guys, because I think we've heard, this is not a matter before this body. So, I mean, it's good discussion, but this is probably not the best place to have that discussion, so let's go to.
I'm gonna
close
take
this
those, I'm gonna take
discussion
those
down.
3 follow-ups, and I will make sure that an email sent to the commission members just to close the loop on those matters. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Appreciate it.
May I just have a moment, because I just want to ask a question, I have a couple things to say for the record. First question, the city planner, how many spaces were identified as being available on Humbug's site for overflow parking?
It was based on area, so
230 is what I saw, is that accurate?
based on the calculations, yes, that's what's in the memo.
And that was when JP's was approved, and JP's was a self-approved with adequate parking, correct?
I couldn't speak to the history on that.
Okay, well, that's what Jane had told me when I was working with her on this issue. So the idea that JP's doesn't have adequate parking, I think, is incorrect. And we have 230 potential extra spaces. We're talking about 22. Capacity is there, is my first point. Second point, the sign right now says 300 foot to overflow parking. It's there today in front of Captain Jim's. I don't think that was there for coincidence. It's 750 foot if you jaywalk across people's property. It's about 1,000 foot if you take the pedestrian path. The parking that we're suggesting is exactly 300 foot on the nose. I think that's what the ordinance provides for, without the need for a variance. So looking into that, that's that. There's this issue of adjoining parking. Again, I'm stating just a couple things for the record, because I've heard a lot of information here, and I don't know it all to be accurate. Our property does abut Captain Jim's property because of riparian rights. That's the bottomlands underneath the water, down the middle of the canal. So I think they're adjoining anyway. I don't know that they need to be, but I think we meet that. As far as Mr. Crooks referencing the tax revenue he pays, everybody that pays tax in the city should have some kind of, say anything that goes on. It's a good thing. We appreciate that. We pay about $170,000 at Humbug annually. And there was a tax certificate granted for Captain Jim's some time ago. Had nothing to do with us, but as soon as that expires, the tax revenue is going to go up there. Not that it's relevant to us today. The notion that we intend to sue you guys for not approving something is ludicrous on its face. We're not asking for anything. I recognize that there's nothing to do except for receive and place on file something tonight. All we're trying to do is actually offer a solution to a problem, to get parking out of the neighborhood by offering it within 300 feet where we have abundance of exactly that. And last point, we talked a lot about the need for approvals when properties transfer hands. Captain Jim's, in its current form, without any changes to today, did transfer hands in October or September of 2023. Not long ago. No change in use, no anything. The McGuires bought it from Rob Molnar. He revoked the parking. We find ourselves here today. But the idea that something needs to happen when the property changes hands, I don't really know, but it did transfer hands recently without anything changing, without these issues even coming up.
Yeah, but the title didn't transfer because he has a land contract. So the title is still Rob's name.
Title transfers under land contract.
Yeah, but he doesn't, until he pays it off, it doesn't fully transfer.
He went from property owner to mortgage holder under that context then. He went from property owner to mortgage holder under that. Yeah, so title was transferred.
Well, there should be records of it then.
Yeah, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I don't know.
It should trigger something, and I know you're.
Okay, hey, guys, good discussion.
Yep,
Appreciate
so-
your feedback. We're gonna move on to the next item, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, I don't believe we have any postponed or referred items. Commissioner Forum, what do we have for Commissioner Forum, guys? Okay, moving on to next
Yep.
item. Yes, Bill.
Just an idea for future, it would be kind of nice if we could get the city attorney here for one evening just to be able to explain what it is that we can or can't do.
Or
This
should or
is
shouldn't be
kind of
done.
like the first time I've heard that this board doesn't have authority to basically enforce our rules.
Well, enforcement's always been part of the city's responsibility.
Well, okay, I used the wrong word, but, I mean, we interpret what the zoning rules are here and.
We
and try
actually,
to-
we create the ordinances, the rules, if you will, then expect the city and the powers that be to enforce those rules.
I mean, it's always been if an applicant is abiding by the rules, then there's nothing we can do. It's only been when there's a gray area in the rules. For example, adjoining property could be one item that's worth discussion by this body. So it baffles me a little bit. I just don't quite understand how we can't say anything about this, that it's not even something that should be here.
You guys paid the attorney, right? Why isn't he here?
Well, the attorney's never here. That's why I'm suggesting maybe we have that, you know.
I guess to Bill's point, and I'll ask Mr. Mayor, what would it take to invite the attorney to come in, sit in a couple of our meetings here, just give some legal perspective
We
on
can
what we do?
absolutely consult our city attorney on that. To the point, our city attorney, I'm never aware of any attendance at this commission meeting from a city attorney perspective, but given the matter at hand, absolutely. I think what I'm going to commit to is to get you the responses that you just requested for those three things. So just sharing the information we have today, but there's some follow-up that we clearly got to clarify, because I think we're all aligned. We want to make sure we have rights to enforce the guardrails that we put in place,
We all want to
right?
do the right thing. It's just the
And-
first time I've heard that sitting on, on this committee, so, or this commission. So.
I'm gonna leave, but I just wanna put this to you guys, that it's nothing personal against these guys. What you're doing today is gonna affect this city for the next 50 years of all the development in the downtown area. So this notion that private people can just make deals and park all over town, it's 100% wrong. I can guarantee you that from the legal perspective.
I appreciate that. My only comment back to that would be, what we're talking about is something that happened last month. This happened back in 2018. This happened 6
I want
years
to, yeah, and I want to be very,
long time ago.
Decision, but what I'm saying is what you're doing is a critical junction in this city. I was born and raised here, just like Jim, and a lot of you guys might have been. The issue is if you don't, I think everybody
understand your perspective.
Oh, yeah,
And
and
this comment of me want, you know, I made a comment to some of you guys that I would, because what the word is that those guys, if they don't get their way with you, that they're gonna, you know, Jay's gonna sue the city because it's gonna mess up his deal. That's where I said, okay, if that's a problem, I'll buy that piece of property, donate it to the kids. give
we're
it
not,
the road.
and I want to be clear, we're,
Not even there, so.
Yeah, we're not.
But all I'm saying is, you guys gotta really think hard, and you better get your counsel in here, because once you go down this road, you open Pandora's box, and everybody around town, I got all kinds of lots on Lowell Street, Mike, I'm gonna park by your house, I'm gonna buy over here, I'm gonna make a bar, and I'm gonna taxi all the people over there. Now, how do you think that's gonna go? You guys were there all summer, when all this shit show was going on. I had my boat parked right there the whole time, kicking drunks off my boat, whatever. But at the end of the day, we have to, you guys have to, as a city, run like a professional city, which I think you are now. I think Garrett's a big part of that. But we went hodgepodge, we'll let Joe do that, let this guy do that. And then that's why we're at this position right now. So you got a chance to make it right, whether you gotta go to the zoning, redo the zoning, whatever it is. But I'm pleading to you guys that that's what you need to do, and to make a precedent right now, that, hey, we did this for Johnny, and when Jim comes in, he's gonna get the same treatment. I think that's the point, is we willy-nilly did the city and ran like a second class forever, and now it's getting a little more prominent, and I just think that, I'm a business guy, obviously, but I think you need to, there's rules, and you gotta follow the rules, I mean,
absolutely.
that's.
And I think,
I can sit here and talk about it all
my-
day, but I
that-
think that's the precedent of, is going forward and figuring out a proper way to go forward without, but your counsel, I haven't talked to the guy, but saying two private guys can make a deal and you can park cars all over town, there's no way that can fly.
and I want to be very clear that it's not endorsing parked cars all over town. I hear practically what you're expressing, and the concerns are loud, and nobody in this commission, nor myself, I think I'm speaking for everybody, wants any downside risk, any unnecessary precedent setting. All we are doing, I just want to level set us on the facts. All we did was raise a matter that was brought to us, take the follow-up from the first commission discussion to bring evolved information, i.e. your packet today, consult all experts that are designed and compensated to do these jobs, to bring that expertise, remove any subjective, emotional, or human factors, focus on language, expertise to give you a set of information. All commission is doing today is receiving that information. I think the concerns have been expressed very clear. I have 3 follow-ups for legal counsel that will help educate the commission, and that's where we're gonna go next.
But these guys came in here today, and if I wasn't objecting to this in various ways, they come in here today thinking you were gonna approve this, and yep, that's good, you guys do whatever.
But just to
And we're
be
not-
clear,
we're not-
There was nothing to
There-
approve.
we are not
That was
approving.
their
There was nothing before this body to approve or disapprove.
Yes,
so.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. And I want to be clear that the next step will be to take those follow-ups. The concerns have been heard loud. The commission members will get all the clarity in this matter.
And if the property transferred 2 years ago, they should have had to go back, a business should have had
We-
to go back and get a new license and all the different things.
Agreed.
That's my question
And-
is,
and
if
Commissioner
we
Bill-
don't do anything.
Commissioner Bill, we're going to do that. We're going to take a
But
follow-up.
it got sold, it was a kayak place, it got sold 2022. If there wasn't a site plan required for that sale, then they turned it into a bar. And
These are the historical,
who all of a sudden, we just sign a business application, who goes in and says, what's occupancy, what part of Gibraltar, or who does that?
and Commissioner Bill, this is all before our time. At least I'll speak
Oh,
for
no,
you and
but
I, right?
who-
And
Who
so,
officially has the
so we're going to take the follow-up
accountability
for you to figure out building department would be a major player in this, right? City planner
Where
and
does
their.
it slip through the cracks?
Yeah, it's gonna be building department, it's gonna be city planner, it's gonna be engineer, it's gonna be legal counsel, and then Director of Public Safety and his department are enforcing through our ordinance officer language. So, yes, there's a chain of individuals. Commissioner Bilk, your question is real, right? So here we are with the 2018 deficiency, right?
And then we
Then
allowed it to go
then-
forward out of 2022.
then a transfer of, as we've
And
just
we're sitting here
heard.
talking like.
And we're
gonna
sitting
let it
here-
go forward again.
Well, no, we're sitting here talking about, the problem we have was
There's a
inherited.
difference between a change of ownership and a change of business plans.
Precisely.
But if they don't do a site plan and they stay within the current site, no one sees it.
That's correct.
So there's no, who enforces to make sure it's meets the ordinance and.
And these are all the questions that we're going to follow up with you.
Because it could be sale, done, gone, and off and running.
Yeah, but again, keep in mind that back in 2018, they were given basically, if you will, a variance to this deficiency.
Right.
And that carries on until there's another plan that comes before us that changes the plans.
Well, that's what I mean, but what I'm saying, since we don't have anything to do with it, council doesn't have anything, who is that body within Gibraltar that governs that?
And
Obviously, it's slipped through.
So-
Yeah, is it
No,
building?
and we're jumping to conclusions without information. I said I was gonna take it as a follow-up, so your ask is very clear, right? I listed that the building department plays a role in this, the city planner plays a role in this, engineers play a role in site plans or plot plans. Our attorney would be consulted, so there's a variety of parties. And then the enforcement arm is Director of Public Safety in partnership with those parties. So I'll get you the clarity on specifically, because your concerns are real and practical. But what we heard tonight was a private sale of a business does not require approval. And so that's one
But
piece.
does
And
the
then,
city- Does the city have like a flow chart that says, when a business change hands, this is where it goes through, step by step by step?
and this is
Do
the
we
follow,
have one of
this
those?
is the follow-up I'll get you.
I would think they need a new business license at that point.
Yeah, they come in with a business
Which we
license.
just updated that process. So yes, we're all on the same page. And
But
we're,
before they didn't, because.
we're looking at the historical situation. We're navigating it real world because this was brought to us. And we're giving you, everything you've asked for has been followed up on from last meeting. And now you've delivered us with new things you'd like to hear, for which we'll follow up with next meeting. That's where we're at. I mean, to put it very simple.
Yeah, and not to be, I don't wanna be disrespectful to any of you guys. 'Cause I
We got
appreciate-
to move on, though.
I
Out of
appreciate
respect.
what you guys do, okay? But at the end of the day, I wanted to woe this down a little and say, whoa, let's think about this before somebody says, let them do whatever. Because I have a big impact in this city with my own financial and things that I own in here, just like everybody else. And the whole thing is the word on the street was, yeah, they're gonna just approve it and we're gonna sell it and I'm gonna get my $1 million and everybody's gonna be happy.
And nobody's
So-
taking that approach, and you've seen that.
I know you guys
Yeah.
aren't, but that's what's going on behind the scenes, okay? So at the end of the day, I know, I think it's brought to everybody's attention
Yeah.
and make a rule, whatever your rule is, but you gotta live with this rule because the next business is gonna be the bank that's. gonna do it.
100%.
Then it's gonna be the gas station, then it's gonna be the old repair shop. And then all those people are gonna wanna do businesses, and then they're gonna say, well, I don't have, cause nobody has enough parking, right?
Yeah,
So-
and I think that's it. This commission is very conscious of precedent, is sticking with objective information and expert counsel, and we're gonna follow up on the matters that we just discussed tonight.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, anything else for commission forum, guys? If not, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll do a motion to adjourn. I didn't have to talk in
Got a
front.
second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll close this one down.
Thank you to the planning commission members for what was a very thorough review and discussion. I want to call, that since we've already taken Pledge of Allegiance prior to our planning commission meeting, please can we get quiet in the back? Thank you. I want to take an opportunity for Clerk Tomasky to please call roll.
Schumate,
Here,
Baker,
Here.
Bilk,
Here.
please, I'm trying to, thanks.
Cox,
Here.
Frisone, Hutchinson, Olson,
Here.
Hyatt, Upholzer,
Here.
Dix.
Do we have a motion to excuse absent members?
Motion to excuse.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, it'll take us to public comment. Are there any members of public that wish to address council this evening? Please. Don't forget that name and address.
Wayne Brennan, 30490 South Gibraltar Road. Mr. Mayor, in 2021, I brought you proof that the proper permits were not pulled for Humbug Marina on seawalls, on all the work they did over there. Nothing was done. It was signed off and approved, and I would ask that you do an investigation on all the permits pulled on the Humbug property before it was sold. And I'll guarantee they weren't pulled.
I want to be clear, I took office in November of '23.
We talked about this before. I talked about with Mayor Dennison. He said, I never got along with the Hepke's for 30 years. I'll do this, I'll do that. Nobody did anything. You knew about it. We talked about it. But I can prove that the proper permits were never pulled for that stuff over there because I've got the FOIAs on all of it.
No, I appreciate that. And since I took office in November of '23, I've sent all that information to building department, legal counsel, and all parties involved. I just want to be clear. I just want to make sure you know that that was shared.
Because that's a lot of tax money
appreciate that. Thank you. Any additional members of public that wish to address our commission this evening? Great. With that, I would like to call your attention to the published and public noticed agenda. There was one addition that came in through, should have been shared with Clerk Tomasic shared it via email with all of you. And that proposed addition, we could put under new business, and that would be focused on painting of the lighthouse structure on North Gibraltar Road. So is there a motion to add painting of the lighthouse structure on North Gibraltar Road under new business, item B?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Baker. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill. Any discussion on this matter?
I did have a question. Just adding this, I know it's like we approved this before, or the painting of the, structure, but is there any issue with it not having, being quoted by other people? Or is that completely off?
I think it's just, this is adding it to the agenda. We're gonna talk about that. when we
Oh, I'm
get to
sorry.
that item.
No,
Okay, sorry,
really,
wrong- Wrong spot, sorry. Okay.
discussion noted, and we'll make sure we cover that later on in the agenda if it's approved. Any other discussion on the addition of the item? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so commission, that will then update new business to have item B, painting of the lighthouse structure on North Gibraltar Road. With that, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, with the approved agenda, let's get to it. First item beyond that is approval of previous meeting minutes. Commission members, item A is DDA minutes of 9/16/2025. Do we have a motion to approve item A?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Baker. I heard a second. Did I hear a second?
Yes.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. With that, it'll bring us to our acknowledgement of correspondence. Commission members, you'll see in your packet, item A, full year 25-26 DDA budget as of 10/17/25. I just want to give a shout out. I know Finance Director McEwen has been here at just about every previous meeting, sharing updates with you on the budget, as well as the progression of project spend related to bond allocation. So I want to make sure I could call your attention to the information provided in the packet. A couple high-level themes here. We discussed that the capital line improvement project has been highlighted previously. You have the fund balance for the DDA, and you have a list of all of the projects that were prioritized. If you recall the previous discussion, we have a deadline to spend those surplus funds under the scope of a bond, and the bond is very intentional on what those funds are allocated towards. I want to give a huge shout out to the teams. There's been a tremendous amount of progress, and I hope all of you have seen it in regards to the project advancements, everything from HVAC replacement to parking lot resurfacing, to the Franken-Poet drain walking bridge updates, to the City Hall and Community Center roof repairs, backup power sourcing for DPW and the load capacity testing to support that, offsite storage considerations, entry and wayfinding sign updates. The team's been hard at work, and I just want to call out that in your packet, you'll see that the blue gives you the updates. Finance Director McEwen is carefully tracking spend. If you recall, she had focused in the last meeting on making sure we could revisit some of those other priority items that could be pulled into the mix to make sure we hit that spend target. So, in short, I want to make sure you had this information, and we'd be looking for a motion to receive and file unless there are any specific questions that you'd like to highlight that I can take for Finance Director McEwen.
I'm not reading through it all, but are we on track to spend all the bond money that we're struggling to spend?
Absolutely, and I wouldn't say struggling, we're getting to work on it. And I would say she's just making sure we have more than enough to accommodate.
Okay, so we're good.
Yeah.
Because last time they had to find some or try and go reprioritize.
She wanted to
it.
pull in additional projects to put in, just so that there was zero risk of not hitting the target based on project milestones, but in no way struggling.
Yeah, because we talked about the generators, which is gonna add a ton of money,
Okay.
and windows, I think. I'll make the motion, receive and file.
All right, motion to receive and file from Commissioner Olson. Is there a second? Any discussion on this matter further? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion is carried as well. Will take us to unfinished business for which there is none this evening. So let's jump into new business. Commission members, keep in mind that we've added item B. We'll get to item A first. Really excited about the item A, which is the update on the DDA mural facade program. And with that, I'd like to pass over to our city planner.
Yeah, you'll see Jane wrote a letter dated on the 16th of October. And it's a short paragraph, but the summary of it is that it's still being worked on with the applicant. So it's in the preliminary design stage right now, and when we have more of an update for you, Jane will let you guys know.
So I'm assuming that this mural doesn't conflict with or it's different than a sign. I mean, it's,
In terms of,
well, it's, I remember back when when Captain Jim's first put up their thing, there was kind of determined to be, was it a mural or was it a sign? And so it's.
Good point.
Is the thing that going to be in the side of the car wash going to be incorporating logos and things about car wash, or is it just going to be strictly a mural? What's the differentiation between a mural and a sign?
I think that's the beauty of this discussion right now, is that we need to take all these as practical follow-ups. And I know in her packet, she obviously put some thoughts around the improvement program application. So one, we need to clarify, to your point, is what defines a sign versus a mural and the dimensional or location considerations. So that's great feedback. We need to take that. Any other reactions to this topic, things to make sure our planner has as a follow-up as she looks to advance this? Things you want to see, things you don't want to see?
Looks pretty good. I mean, I think
Hearing positive reaction to the application, generally speaking.
I like that it's got current and future tenants and has a lot of information that would check a lot of boxes, hopefully to get all information beforehand.
And I know in the previous packet, if you recall, she had shared some like best practice examples from other communities around this. So to Chair Upholzer's commentary, like we should think about the guardrails, right? Beyond the application, like here's the guardrails, here's the funding considerations, here's what is in scope, here's what's out of scope. So make sure that's a part of it. Any other feedback for our planner as she looks to bring this back to you? Any other comments from the planner that's here today?
no, sorry, I didn't have the answer with the mural and sign. It's really gonna be dependent on what our zoning ordinance says on it, but that is a hot topic issue in a lot of communities, and I just don't have the answer for you right now. So I'm sure I'll let Jane know, and I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of that.
And then I know the car wash owner, obviously she had reached out to me originally, which came to this commission, obviously for the sake of this mural facade program. I know she also just acknowledged that she made some aesthetic improvements, and I saw that firsthand, that the painting and other updates. So grateful for any business owner that's taking the maintenance and aesthetics seriously, and I think that's a good platform for the mural if the commission so chooses.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the wailing walls, the wall.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I've always thought that the big humbug bracket store building would be a perfect canvas for something like that too, so.
And it's cool because in my discussions with the owner as well, she was highlighting that, you know, like a marine district theme, support for local artists, all of that she's advocating for. So I don't want to speak for her. All that will formalize through the application process. But to your point, it will fit the downtown area nicely if we get the right guardrails in place. Awesome. Well, perhaps what we can do is just consider that an update. I don't think you have any action to take on that matter, and I'll take those follow-up discussion items for our planner.
I do have one question.
Oh, please, yeah.
So are these gonna be like painted murals or like removable murals?
Typically painted.
Yeah, typically painted, but again, another good clarification, right? Because these are the things we can put guardrails on to manage appropriately expectations from the get-go, so.
You're thinking like a wrap or something they stick
Yeah.
on there?
Yeah. The vision was painted, but to your point, there's a lot of artistic approaches to get a design on a surface, so we can take that with our planner and make sure that the considerations are there. And I know what Jane heard from the commission members too was the importance that I think, if I heard correctly, the commission wants some level of involvement or screening on this, right? i.e. the application process. So it gives you the ability to have an involvement in the process versus blind fund distribution without any sort of guardrail application. Great. Next item on our list, which was added, was item B. I know this was shared with you all. Just kind of summarize, unless, Rachel, you want to take the floor on that. I'll pass it to you.
Yes, so John's here tonight if you have any questions about this, but basically we had a painter come and paint some of the outside of this building, and while they were here, John asked if they could give him a quote on the lighthouse on Gibraltar Road. So that's before you. I did receive a comment asking for the breakdown between labor and material. So that breakdown I have for you is $2,200 for labor and $1,600 for material. And then, John, do you have anything you want to add about the project?
And maybe you can give some background on the prior projects that were referred to.
Is that the guy on the ladder painting, hand painting all the signs? I seen them all over town.
And that was obviously mentioned in your packet here.
No, look. I think you guys approved the funds to paint to drive it on the building, the EIFS. And I bid that out. I had 3 prices.
Okay, I just didn't know if adding that
And
had any
this guy,
conflict.
this guy
but-
here, he was the lowest.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I figured I'd talk to him.
Yep.
Because I already got his insurance and all that.
Cool. Yeah, I was just questioning, it was just, it popped in my head, so I figured I'd ask. So,
It's a good question,
Yep.
and it gives them the context, which is on the backdrop of
Yep.
the bidding process.
And I didn't know about that, so glad John's here.
Thanks for being here.
Okay. So
Anything else you want to highlight?
Basically, this thing was built in 1976. It was donated by the Rotary. And Beautification Committee, they maintain landscaping, and I don't think it's been painted since. Since it's been donated, it's been touched up.
due for a paint job.
It's time to have something done to it.
What are the walls made of? What is it? Do you know? Is it wood? Is it
No, it's-
plaster or cement or?
Looks like it's block with a coating on it.
Yeah, I was looking at it today and it's like, I wonder if you start scraping or power washing, it's like
Well,
start blowing apart.
No, it's solid, so he'd have to do a lot of scraping.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So other than being the lowest bidder, what are the other reasons you selected this company?
Well, he was a low bidder for doing exterior paint here.
He already has a contract with us performing exterior paint
Right,
here,
he's
correct?
already performing.
How would
And the
you-
three bidders that I had, I didn't have no local contractors bidding it. Everybody was from out of state, or out of town. So I opened it up, but I didn't have no interest.
So you're, the
I'm
painting you've seen so
comfortable
far
with
has
this
been,
guy. Yeah,
you're happy with the painting that they've done so far?
yep.
So we're looking for a motion to approve, correct?
So Commission, we'd be looking, anything else you want to add, John?
No, that's it.
We'd be looking for a motion to approve the $3,800
Yeah,
for the painting of the lighthouse
I looked at the same thing.
structure on North Gibraltar Road.
Brain went to. I'm sorry.
We'd be looking for a motion to approve $3,800 for the painting of the lighthouse structure on North Gibraltar Road. And obviously Rachel had given you the sub-layer of that, labor versus material.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Olson. Is there a second?
Support.
A second. Any discussion further on this matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. John, thanks for bringing it. And if it wasn't abundantly clear, this man has been working tirelessly with our teams to get a ton of work done in this community. So, John, I know we praise you all the time. He's hitting letter M on his agendas, literally, for council, setting records for volume. So just thank you for everything you're doing. And another example of pull-through on a previously committed bidding project that gets us a little aesthetic improvement for the lighthouse. Thank you. Commission members, that will turn us to our DDA Director's Report. And I don't know if Rachel has anything she'd like to address.
First, I'd like to apologize that I'm not as up to date as I will be for the next meeting. This is exactly a week today that I've been in Gibraltar, so I don't have much to report other than a thank you for tonight's meeting and discussion. And I will take all these items back to our planner for the DDA portion as well.
I really appreciate the pull-through. I'll just say, yeah, 1 week into role, and Rachel is very quickly immersing in the operation, getting familiar with all the details and background and considerations, oriented to the strategic priority list. And that's one of my biggest observations with Rachel. Thank you for your attentiveness to pull through.
Thank you.
When something comes up, you have the assurance that it's going to be pulled through upon. And so I look forward to that, especially with the context of the discussion this evening.
Yes, thank you. And never hesitate to reach out to me for anything.
So commission members, with that, if there's no questions, comments further on the DDA Director's Report, we'll turn to tabled and referred items for which there is none. So with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Commission, thank you so much for a good discussion and look forward to the follow-up. Thanks.
Drinking from a fire hose.
Well, good job tonight. That wasn't an easy meeting.
Yeah, you walked into an interesting one.
Yeah.
You'll find that probably 95% of them were in and out like that. You got 5% that just, you have this happen, so.
Yeah.
Your first one, you got the fun one.
It wasn't as bad as it could have been. It's all good.
The good thing is, and you did a nice job.